The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Get ready to be amazed. Get ready to know things that nobody could know. Get ready for Recovery Wednesday with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, along with Candy Finnegan from the Emmy Award-winning television show Intervention. Candy brings her more than 30 years of experience dealing with all areas of recovery. Listen as Candy and Dr. Linda bring expert guests into the conversation to bring your recovery to the next level. Together, they bring you the tools and techniques that bring balance and serenity to your life. For nearly 30 years as a syndicated talk show host and metaphysical clinician, Dr. Linda has helped thousands of people worldwide solve problems on the air and in person with her insights and solutions. So pull up a chair, turn it up, and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Linda Salvin. I am a psychic healer and a medium and the host of all the shows you see during the week from Tuesday, Transformational Tuesday, today, Recovery Wednesday, and tomorrow, Thursday. If you're watching or listening or tuning in, is the Starlight Cafe, which I started in 1995, I think, on FM radio. My co-host, Candy Finnegan, is having technical difficulties and can't sign on yet. So she'll be with us in a few moments. Candy's a very well-known, famous, here she comes, there she goes, there she is. It's what's known as Mercury retrograde with four other planets out there going crazy. So
oh my God, I'm underneath the desk, unplugging, plugging shit. I mean,
I had to reset it. I did that yesterday. I told my computer guy, I said, I can't find the on and off button. He says, it's been there for 20 years. But, we get overwhelmed. But this is Candy Finnegan. She's a very famous interventionist. She's been in the recovery industry for over 30 years. I've been in the metaphysical industry and healing industry for about 35 years. I have a background in epidemiology, became psychic in a plane crash, and opened my career in the spiritual world. Candy and I met about 37 years ago through the 12-step family. And Candy got so enthused with the recovery process, she dedicated her life to helping people. And today we're going to be talking about the stages of recovery. There's 5 or 6 of them. And a lot of you may not even know that you have a problem because most people don't see it as others may see it, or you may be so used to living the way you live, you don't think you have a problem. That's called denial. You think, well, this is just who I am. No, there are ways to change. I went through it. Everybody goes through it, but there's fear involved as well. But Candy's here to tell you more about that because that's her thing. And we're going to talk about the stages. And most of it starts with transition. And then it's also coming through a lot of processing on the emotional deep level. It's also, as you've heard on the various shows, it's a family disease. So Candy.
Yes.
How do you find stages of recovery? We got to get somebody aware that they need it. That's the first step, right?
Well, as you and I both know, denial that my case is different. I'll stop on Monday. I won't do that again. I didn't mean to do it. I'm just depressed. So
I can stop. I don't need help.
Yeah, exactly. So the pre-contemplation stage, I think, is kind of the most difficult. It's the first stage of addiction recovery. It's characterized by defensiveness and endless justification of their behavior. And it's a lack of insight. And usually the interesting thing for me is, and why I really got involved as an interventionist, is because people that love you can't point this out as easily as people it's nagging. But, professionals who are trained in this process really, can break down the defenses of the family so they see it as there's no shame, blame, or guilt, that everyone that is an addict or has any kind of dependency is more or less responsible for their own behavior. Sometimes it's pre-existing if you come from a family that has had addiction. But I think all of us that ever get into recovery always go through this stage because we think our case is different. We think we can
We're
stop.
so unique. We're so unique. And that's why
And this
a lot of
won't
times
work
people
for me,
tell you
by the
sit
way.
down and shush. And yeah, people don't want to know that we're really not that different.
I think there's the other part of this is that you probably have dealt with so many failed attempts that that it's more difficult to think
Believe.
that you could ever do it.
Right.
I'll quit on Thursday. I'll quit next Monday. I'll quit after the Super Bowl. Just wait till after Valentine's Day.
My birthday, it's Christmas,
Yeah,
it's Hanukkah, it's New Year's. There's always
Tuesday,
something
whatever it
to
is.
celebrate, right?
Yeah.
You can't have cake. I can't have cake, then I'll wait. Can't have alcohol, then I'll wait. Can't hit a pot, no, I'll wait. Can't quit cigarettes, no, I'll wait. It's hard. Addiction is not just a physical thing, people. It's spiritual, it's mental.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all of it combined. Where the activity, the feelings, the mental high or the escape, or the problem is when you need more and more and more. The problem is where you can't stop. The problem really gets bad when you know you can't stop. There's things or addicts that are considered periodic, that they can go long periods of time and then they're back at it, but they dive and they come back up. It's not stable. Candy's worked in many, many treatment centers. She's been on TV she was on TV for over 10 years with the TV show on A&E Intervention. You probably recognize her from that. She's also got a book out called When Enough is Enough. And you're going to want to read it to help your family and yourself understand the tools and the guidelines on how to help somebody that you know has a problem. So go on to the stages again.
So the second stage is really contemplation. I mean, they're ready to have a change and they're contemplating the future, but not immediately. I'm not going to.
Someday someday
anything,
Someday I will.
Yeah. Well, this is a critical stage for the families, really, where they need to start proactively. I know I need to change. I know I need to stop. This isn't working for me. And that's the kind of the stage where the family and loved ones need to jump in, because they're not going to be able to set a deadline for when they've had enough, because there's always one more time. So that's really where an interventionist comes in and guides the family to the next stage, because the person is stuck.
But what if they don't think they're sick? You and I talk about our clients and certain cases that we have, and some are so really ill. Addicted, and they don't see it, or the family denies it. They don't have the money for treatment. They got so much money, throw them into treatment. They don't get the treatment. They don't surrender. They don't get well. It's hard.
Well, it is, but I always think there's some, I don't want you to hit bottom, because, sometimes we don't get up. But the other part of it is that's important to me is that when you're constantly missing work, when you oversleep and can't take your kids to school, when you don't show up at work, when the family starts making excuses that you've got the flu, whatever it is, that's the stage. Of course, we talked about it last week. Enabling and codependency interferes with all of this realization. But the real truth of it is that if you sit down and think hard enough, you can certainly see, a lot of these people go, well, my kid's moved home and he can't get a job. Yes, he has a college degree. And he just can't find himself. He's lost. Well, then you need to allow him or her to find themselves. I don't think that it needs to be this, well, I'm going to wait till he hits a bottom, because it's a lot harder to pick yourself up.
That is. A lot of people may not understand what that means, to hit bottom. So why don't you define that a little bit? I mean,
Well,
it could be food, alcohol. Yeah.
In making excuses, finding fault with everything and everybody, not being able to achieve what you set out, not getting out of bed. It might look like depression, but that might be their bottom. I think that.
But wouldn't it also, like, I'm going to share it. Like when I would have too much sugar, I didn't want to get out of bed. I mean, I really had like a sugar hangover, and I didn't understand there was like a food addiction. But with alcohol, it's the same kind of thing, that you're hung over, or if you've had too much THC in something you smoked, there are times that people may not understand the effect of the substance actually being the factor while we're hiding or running from emotions or situations in life, or bad news, good news, happy news. We can eat, drink, smoke, whatever when we're happy, glad, sad. It doesn't matter how we feel. It is there to comfort or elate or hide from. But a lot of people don't know what hitting bottom is that
it's when you're non-functionable as you were or as you could be. There's all different levels of it, but you want the least of the worst. So then you go into the preparation stage, which is the individual is usually building a sense of urgency, regarding that they're making the steps towards taking action. You're preparing to change. Instead of contemplating it, you're trying to get into action. And a lot of it has to do with, I know what I'll do. I'll go to the gym. Because if I go to the gym every day and I don't drink until 5 or smoke pot until bedtime, then, I got it. Or attempting to see a therapist and not telling the truth about your condition. Or even attempting to talk to treatment centers, but they don't have what I need. I've got to have a swimming pool. They're
going for spa, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the preparation stage. The action stage, I think, looks very different. Some of them are successful. We have that saying where it's not so hard to stop, it's hard to stay stopped. Mm-hmm. And that on and off change will appear in a multitude of different things, but it's never consistent. And a lot of it has to do with superstition, actually. If I don't do this will happen. If I do that, then that's why I got this. It isn't like an OCD situation, but you're looking for luck or anything that you can find that will help you stop without having to do what everybody else does.
Which is the work. And a lot of people don't understand that the substance just hides the symptom. You take the substance away, and there's fear. There's a fear of like, how do I go to a club without drinking first? Or how do I go to a birthday party without smoking something? Or how do I go to the wedding without being intoxicated? How do I show up at a family event without having...
Or show up at all.
Or show up, yeah, because there's that fear of showing up. What are they going to think? Do they like me? I don't like them. Do I fit in? It's hard. So, but we, especially young people growing up using, never developed the proper social skills for adult life.
Well,
they were retarded,
a drug or
suppressed.
Anything that alters you from the neck up, mm-hmm. whether you're 13 or 20 or 33,
you stop at that growth level. You stop growing.
Stop maturing. Right. It comes to a dead halt. That's why when recovery, you see a lot of 50-year-olds, thinking that they're still 16 and need to be grounded. It's like they have not matured. Intellectually, they've continued to grow, but they have not matured emotionally.
Right. So is that all part of the stage of?
Well, the action stage really is where you do go into treatment. And, gosh, I can't tell you how many times I gotten a phone call after 3 days of detox, and they don't like the food, and the people don't like them, and they're being mean, and they won't let them wear their yellow t-shirt, and it's the stupidest things you've ever heard. And then when you call the treatment center and say, I just heard from my daughter, my wife, my friend, that this isn't the right treatment center, and that you're not giving her enough medication, and that, she's not happy. And they'll go, oh my gosh, everybody loves her. She's just wonderful. She's so willing. She attends all the groups. And at that point, the family or the loved one they're still trying to keep them as either a victim or a hostage, because they want to make sure that everything's going to work in case this doesn't work. And that's when the family has to say to him, you'll have a better day tomorrow. And I want you to know that I'm going to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, something that has to do with I'm getting into my own recovery. And hopefully tomorrow will be better. And not buy into it, because they've got these hostages, and boy, they sure want to keep them no matter if they're sober or not, And then, of course, the next one is the most difficult in most things, and it's the maintenance, and it's working hard to prevent recovery and relapse, trying to do a lifestyle change. And as we say jokingly, the only thing you have to change is everything. Mm-hmm. And, and it's difficult if you have really close old friends that still drink. I mean, at the end of my drinking, I only really hung out with people that drank like me and wouldn't criticize me or be critical of anything in my life. They just kind of went along with it. And the other ones, unless they were occasional or hometown friends or old friends that I didn't see often, I had to surround myself, I can't say with lower companions, because I think I was the lowest of companions, but I didn't want to be criticized for the way I was living or drinking. And I wanted people who would buy into me and what I was doing. And so I had a pal. I mean, I was so frightened of drinking alone, because then I heard you were an alcoholic, for God's sakes. So I stayed on the phone, started in New York and ended up in Hawaii. And there was a long, I could start
people. Yeah, a lot of people kept going.
5 hours difference in Hawaii, so then I could pass out and come to. But and it was the old days, and I'd have a $400 phone bill, and I'd think, how'd that happen? Well, I didn't want to drink alone. So the maintenance stage is when you have to make a commitment to your recovery, make a commitment to support, which is 12-step programs, make a commitment to support groups, and 12-step is usually 90 meetings in 90 days.
But there's also writing and
journaling.
Freaked out of prayer, but there's a spiritual component. There's the writing, because you have feelings coming up you may not have remembered or felt in 30, 40 years.
Right.
And stuff comes up like a little geyser. Just listening to you reminded me of something with my mom. And I'm actually sitting here holding back tears because I just pushed a button of a memory from, I guess, the 80s. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I remember something my mother had said and what I was going through after the accidents, on top of everything else, trying to put it all together. And I feel bad for my mom, because she didn't know, I didn't know, but at the same time, I can see where I must have heard her as the child and the parent looking at what's wrong. And I can remember saying, I wish I could help you figure out your demons and what's wrong. And it's the same thing. A lot of people don't know how to define what's wrong. They don't know how to define that pain or the confusion or the demon that eats up inside. And express it until you find a place to recover and hear other people share, oh, I've done that, I feel that, that's me too. Because it
Well, that's
really,
what you find in a support group, is a
absolutely,
community of likeness. We
you're
don't look
not
the same on
alone.
the outside.
Yep.
We don't look the same on the inside. We don't have the same race, the same economics. We don't have, but what we do really have in common are
It's the
these
disease of alcoholism.
and these feelings of finding fault with everything and everyone, not being enough. But what about me? And we all have those because those are the pre-existing conditions and conditions of having a dependency. There's the recovery, the 8 principles, there's stages of recovery, there's changes in recovery, there's all of it. Well, what gets down to it is, what are you going to do to maintain your recovery? I'm one of these people, and it's not everybody, that feels like sobriety and recovery are very different. I feel sobriety is you quit doing what you're doing and you're supposed to have your wits about you, and recovery is a full extension of your life, that you are going to help other people. You're going to have a spiritual situation in your life that helps you. And I think recovery is you can work at it, and sobriety you can quit. It's just my own thought.
That's interesting, because I remember, or I have talked to certain clients of mine. Oh, I stopped drinking for a week. I said, well, you may be sober, but you don't have sobriety. They go, what do you mean? So I would take it one step further, as you're saying, in different terms. The recovery is where you do the work, whether you're in a group setting or you're in a controlled setting, or you're working what they call the steps, or you do the writing, or you talk to other people, or you help somebody who's hurting more than you, or you find common people to share your experience
with.
with.
Common sense, right?
And all of a sudden, when you start journaling, or you start going back, like you might be, I mean, I'm almost 70, but maybe back in the days when I was in my 30s, and I would write things that I remembered from teenage days, or something with an old boyfriend, or why the relationship didn't work, or anger towards my parents, and all that stuff gets healed. All that stuff gets healed. Thank you, Karina. She's saying, thank you, Candy, for your help.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All of it starts to feel better. The goal is for us as human beings, individuals, to feel better. We don't have to be in that pain, conflict, lies, deceit, hiding, living a double, triple, quadruple life. You know, how you become different people in front of different populations.
The old chameleon.
Yeah. Yeah, I fit in there because I can act that way. But one day, also that's hitting bottom. One day you just can't be all of those people without it making you nuts, and that breaks. That's the beauty, where you don't have to be behind the mask, I think, where you finally admit, like, it doesn't work for me anymore. For me, my wake-up call was, how come all my friends were getting married and I wasn't? Then I had to look at my behavior. I was more of the party girl. I went to college. I wasn't ready to settle down or whatever. And then on top of it, for people that don't know, I was in a plane crash before I got sober, but I had tried getting sober prior to the plane crash. But you want to meet God. I mean, I had a different type of a handshake going on with the other side, but it led me to all this. It all came together, and it's there for anybody, people. All you have to do is ask for help. All you have to do is maybe suggest you might need help. You don't have to fear, even though the fear is there, and it's very scary. Even if you're in a meeting and they say they're newcomers, and you raise your hand, it's intimidating. You don't want to be the oddball. But once you understand a show like this, or people who contact Candy for private intervention and healing, or people that come to me for the more spiritual healing, it's okay. We're all trying to swim through this sea of life together. But we can do it without a lot of the obstacles and the detriments to our health and our mind and our relationships and our lives all in one. Candy has worked with people, as I said, for over 30 years, has a master's degree in it. Her book is out called When Enough is Enough. Where can they find the books? Is it on Amazon? Or
yeah, it's on Amazon. And you can even go to the used ones, and I think they're like $2.50.
I'm going to go get a used When Enough is Enough.
It's still the same print.
It's the same book. Yep.
And it's a comprehensive guide to intervention. And it, when the show was created, it was a word, oddly enough, that was very, it was hardly ever used. And I was listening to the news last night, and the president was talking, and he said, well, I think I need an intervention on this. And I thought, well, there you go. It's become an everyday
Term, yeah.
term that is that has an urgency to it, because if something needs an intervention, it doesn't need to be yesterday. It needs to be right now. And
It does.
so
Bringing
that's part of
something
it.
together
But
for help.
intervention became a very expensive process, which it doesn't have to be.
Well, I think like any other business, so there's people out there that created these gorgeous estate-like rehab centers for those that could afford the extraordinary
$87,000.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it. Yeah. But it's like going away on vacation, but you're getting healed. But the average person can't pay that. And the average person can go door to door and meet somebody or in their neighborhood for a local support group and learn how to get sober, or put the bottle down, or put the joint down, or put the food down, or put the cigarettes down, or put the needle down, or whatever. Right now we're dealing with fentanyl. We've already gone through the oxycontin, but that's still out there. Pot's more or less legal in most states today with different degrees of THC that you can still get loaded on. But
well, I'd like to tell you, I heard yesterday
yes,
that the DEA has claimed
about the beer,
that pot is a Division I drug, same as heroin. And it's because I believe that's the jump in people using it and admitting it. It looks like that there's an epidemic, where the fact of it is it's legal and a great deal of
well, yes, since it became more legal.
So the incline in use and the truth. So they now, and it needs to be declassified. The pot now is not the pot I smoked.
No, it's not. We talked about that. It's so much stronger because the THC, right? The THC levels.
If you're dabbing or waxing, it could be up to 68 to 72%. It was 3% when we smoked it, Linda.
And a lot of people are hallucinating.
They're going into psychosis, pot psychosis. So I think that we're just all mixed up on what's right and what's wrong. And it scares me in some sense, you know.
Well, it's like we're perpetuating addiction at the same time. I often think once it was more or less legalized here in the state of California, I'm thinking, okay, it's bad enough if I'm behind a drunk driver on the freeway. Now we've got people loaded or tooting or taking edibles or ingesting the tinctures or whatever. You don't know who's driving out there, let alone under what condition. Never mind the weather and everything, but you got to really pay attention because you don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of people are under the influence of something, which makes it even more risky.
Well, the only way they know you've been smoking pot is when you roll down the window and your car smells.
It smells. Yeah.
I mean, there isn't any breath test. There's only blood tests and urine tests, and you can't do those on the side of the street. So
no. What's it, an 8 day or 30 day before you detox totally out of your bloodstream, right? Because
not pot anymore. It's 60 to 80 days.
60 to 80 days. So if someone has a job interview, they
60 to 80 days because it's so strong. Yeah. And there's driving under the influence and driving while intoxicated, and you're impaired. Period. And you can get on a diversion program in California for drugs if you go to treatment and you stay clean and sober for 18 months and you prove yourself, but there isn't a diversion for alcohol.
That's scary. It's hard. It's hard. But to go back to the stages of recovery, knowing that these kind of behaviors or problems exist in people out there. So somebody's driving, they hit somebody or a post, and then they realize, they got a DUI, and they go to court, and the judge sends them to meetings for 30 days. People think
one meeting a week, by the way. One meeting a week.
I don't know how that will ever change, because the system doesn't understand that's not going to fix them or the problem. And sometimes, people have, I had another DUI, I had another DUI. Well, why don't you think about getting sober? I don't need it. Well, then why do you keep getting DUIs? Because they can't comprehend the drinking causes the problem. It's not, what are they blaming the car and not themselves?
They're blaming anything other than themselves. But mainly people like hit and run. So that's something else.
They do. That's another thing. So back to the stages of recovery. So we've talked about the early stages, the middle stages, the late stages. Maintenance, as you said, is probably the most difficult, because it's a day at a time. Sometimes it's hour by hour. For a lot of people, what they say, white knuckling it, because emotions get raw, or some traumatic event was just announced, or something disappointing happens. I mean, I have gotten to the point where
I have to run 2 seconds. There's somebody pounding on my door.
Go. I'll take over.
I'm so sorry, but
go ahead. Go ahead. I have had situations in my own life where I didn't know that I really had a problem. For me, I was put on diet pills at the age of 13, but I was 24 when I decided to come off of them. But I didn't know you can't just go cold turkey and that your body would just be okay. No, I went crazy, and my thoughts and emotions, as Candy and I have talked about, that you go back to that age when you first started. So I was 13. So a lot of me in my 20s was reliving my adolescent and young teenage emotions. I shouldn't have dated him. I shouldn't have gone to that school. I wish I had taken that job. All the what ifs start to come up because the clarity is there. That's the beauty of getting sober, people, whether it's alcohol, drugs, even stopping smoking. So you're not hiding behind the film of smoke and people aren't walking away from you because your clothes smell funny. It's also a different generation now in 2023 than it was in the 60s. In the 60s, everybody drank and smoked, and then the pot and the free love. It's a whole different generation. But we did our damage as we age, because back then when you're young, you don't think of getting older. You don't think of maturing. You think that's your parents and your grandparents. No, it's all of us. It's all of us. So if you have a problem with alcohol or addiction to pot, pills, uppers, downers, got to lose weight, got to go to sleep, smoking cigarettes, even porn, watching porn, addicted to someone else's sex life because yours isn't good enough, or you're not with somebody, or afraid of the intimacy, whatever. Then there's also for sex addicts people who can't have enough sex addicts. That's another addiction. Some people have to have like 5, 10. I know one guy had 25 partners a week, and I worked with him, and he doesn't do that anymore. But when I first heard it, I was like, I don't even have the time. And he was married. But there's sex addiction on top of food addiction and alcohol. I was just bringing people up to date with the different substances to show that even pornography can be an addiction, as is sex, as are taking pills or smoking and hiding behind the smoke and alcohol or pills or whatever. There's help out there for all of it.
Gambling, social media.
Gambling, right. Social media has become my thing. I admit it. I'm hooked, yet there's nothing there. I look at the same stuff and I think, maybe something. So now I'm just going to advertise on social media, take advantage of it. There's Kitty. Hi, Kitty, Mr. Blue. There's Kitty, her kitty walking by. But, the maintenance is the hard part. And sometimes it's day by day. Now Candy has gone through a very painful, traumatic experience. She lost her husband at 54 years, 52 years?
Well, we were together at 51, yeah.
All right.
Married.
Yeah, but your life changed. But
drastically.
You hit your bottom. You went through depression. You still grieve. I mean, you'll cry, but she is sober, people.
Well, alcohol and drugs. I mean, I had somebody say to me, when Mike died, did you want to drink? And I thought, well, no. You would think I would have wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but that wasn't going to help me at that point.
No.
After 37 years, that wasn't my answer. There was no answer other than to sit quietly and
Go through it.
get a connection with the spirituality that I was going to be okay. I'd never be the same, and live through it. I didn't walk through it. I've had to live through it because I got very stuck, and I'm not a depressed person, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to rearrange my life as well as my thinking. And there were good days and bad days, but you know, when the reality sets in, I'm the only one that can change.
But the beauty is you found something to keep you going without relapsing, which a lot of people will do. It's a great excuse. I lost my spouse. I broke up with my boyfriend. My girlfriend left me. I'm broke. I got fired. I whatever, right? I don't have a job. I've got a job. I didn't get the raise. I didn't get the promotion. There's always an excuse as to why. But what you can learn in recovery, if we've discussed the 5 or 6 stages of recovery, is you keep going through life no matter what. And there's a saying, our worst day is better than any great day we had drinking and using.
I love it.
You know, you can compare what it really used to be like versus what it's like now. And people, if you really need help, just email Candy at candyfinnegan@aol.com. Or you can go to me at DRLINDA, Dr. Linda at lindasalvin.com. And the two of us can work with you together. We've shared people in the past and helping each other, and we bookend the cases. Or if you feel more comfortable reaching out to one of us versus the other, that's fine. That's why we're here. We're here to explain to you that you're not alone. And we're here to...
You know, I was thinking yesterday when we were talking, it's kind of a miracle that you have this time. You're more than I do, and I have this time, which is well into the 30s of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this generation of our class of 85, 86, 87, whatever, I have to be honest with you. I don't believe relapse was acceptable like it is now, but we also didn't have this immense high quality and high temptation of pot. We didn't have all these pills. We certainly had pills, but they were not so readily available or addicting as in the opiates. And
it's true. The evolution of society and the pharmaceuticals.
And we had kind of lived through the 60s and 70s.
That's what I said when you were gone. I said we grew up in a different generation where it was common.
I know a lot of people that are our age of recovery that haven't relapsed. And, you know, it's funny. I thought that would be a really interesting PhD. I don't know. I'm not going to write one, trust me. Not after I watched you go through yours.
It was a 3.5-year process. It drove me nuts, but
you know, it's a fascinating thing on why did none of us relapse? And I think that era was my ego. I mean, I didn't want to go back and get that little thing that they said who has, 30 days and who's a newcomer. I think I was so horrified that I ended up being this way.
It's too humiliating to start over. Yeah, it's too humiliating. And then you have people that
over and over again who have relapsed, let's say 10, 15 times, and they always go back to recovery and support groups and 12-step. And I think it's fascinating because they know it works and they've never given up on why it didn't work for them. And, it would be an interesting question because I think a lot of us, I remember distinctly someone saying to me, it's not an option anymore. And I thought, oh my God, it's not an option anymore. I can't do it. Well, I could walk into a grocery store and buy anything I wanted to. It was right down that aisle. I didn't go down. But when somebody said to me, that's not an option for you anymore, I knew the consequences in my situation were not going to be good with my mother-in-law, but it's that what has changed in the world of addiction that allows us to be so frightened of never doing it again, and not so frightened that we'll be okay because we have someplace to go. I mean, I just talked to a 27-year-old father yesterday. She's been in 14 treatment centers.
Whoa.
And more
then
than
you
that.
Stop. Then you start to wonder, what is it that she doesn't understand here or connect with, that she keeps going back and forth? Is she's too young? She's not ready. It's the wrong treatment. No, you don't understand.
She gets a lot of attention in her family for being
sick.
I mean, that's one of the things.
That goes back to what we were talking about last week about enabling and codependency, right?
Some people desperately need to be needed. And if you have a sick child or a child that kind of demands all of your attention, so you don't have to love them to death, I think that it becomes very habitual for the child and for the parent. And also for the husband and wife, or also for the mother and the child. I mean, it's an interesting dilemma that when they're good and they're recovering and they're doing what they were supposed to do, that they don't get the same kind of attention.
You're just reminding me of something. It's an interesting dynamic that's taking place today. My mother, who you've met or had met, she's gone 14 years already, but I think it was in like 92 or something. My grandmother was still alive. And I can remember my mom and dad and me visiting my grandmother in some little apartment she had moved into that my uncle didn't want her in or whatever. But I remember the dynamic of my mother pleading with my grandmother. You never tell me you love me. Have you ever loved me? Do you love me? And I heard it for the first time that my mother was in her 50s by then. Did you ever love me? Do you ever love me? And I could see the generational change, because I always questioned, did my mom really love me? And my mom never got love from grandma. So a lot of it's just conditioning from how we were brought up. It's no one's fault. But if we have the gene on top of it, which causes us to be more prone to addiction over and above our emotional stuff, all of it. Yeah, it's so complex. But what the people need to understand, we all have the triggers and the memories, but we have a solution, Candy. And this is what we're trying to offer people, is that there is a solution to break the chain. Like I saw my mom. When my grandmother died in 1996, I was 42 years old. And I remember going to my dad was playing golf, and my mom said, just love us for who we are. And I had already witnessed my mother screaming for her mother's love, 10 years earlier. It's just who we are. We're all love, but we push it down, or we deny our feelings, or we've been all hurt and we've been ripped off. We've been backstabbed. We've been lied to, but somehow we're still here. So what's the solution to make our lives as happy or stable as possible? That's where the sobriety has come in, at least in my life, Candy's life.
Well, it's like the promises say you'll be happy, joyous, and free. And I thought, I don't think so.
But there is a freedom.
All three of them, I'm going to get all three of them. Okay, well, let's wait and see. And by God, there it was.
There's a freedom. All of a sudden, certain pains, obsessions, connections start to fade away. Yeah, whether it's people, relationships, the past, parents, siblings, work, all of a sudden it shifts as far as the neediness or the demands or the pain. And it's only going to happen to you folks if you're willing to understand that it's okay to give up.
Or if you're willing to help somebody that's in this situation.
Yeah, open the door.
They can't help themselves. I swear to you, as much as it doesn't sound really like it's the truth, love and your deep belief in God, they both help tremendously, but it's not going to cure.
No, it's not.
Or resolve any type of a mental illness or a dependence in any behavior or drug or alcohol. You have to get help.
And when we talk about God, people, it's not about religion. Religion and spirituality are two very different topics. We can have a whole show on that, which I've done in the past on my own, which maybe we'll bring in here someday. But when you find a spiritual connection, like to butterflies and trees, and why did this happen? Or even something horrible to me happened last week. I got some news that, I went ballistic. I went nuts. But then a butterfly flew by. And if you know what I'm into butterflies, I might recite the poem in just a moment to teach you how I see God and bring it all together. But I told Candy what had happened with this project I was involved with, and I ended up on the cutting room floor. But and I was shocked. I was stunned. I was angry. I was like so out of it. But I got through it. And maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I'm being protected. There's a saying that we know God's rejection is God's protection, and a coincidence is God acting anonymously. So when you start to see things and what you learn, what your God might be, step back a moment and go, well, maybe I'm not supposed to go to that department. Maybe I'm not supposed to go with that relationship. Maybe I'm not supposed to go this way. The poem I want to say before we sign out in the next 5 minutes, it's called God, Are You Real? And I've recited this poem forever. And it helps everybody. And it says, God, are you real? The child whispered, God, speak to me. And the meadowlark sang, but the child did not hear. So the child said, God, speak to me. And the thunder rolled across the sky, but the child did not listen. So the child said, God, speak to me. And a star shone brightly, but the child did not see. So the child said, God, show me a miracle. And a child was born, but the child did not know. So the child exclaimed, touch me, God, show me you're real. Whereupon God reached down and touched the child, but the child brushed the butterfly away and walked away unknowingly. God is everywhere, but we think it's just a religious figure. It's not, people. When you start to see how life works through people, where you go, images in the universe, it's going to heal you. We have tools to help you get there. The programs that Candy and I are talking about is all based on spirituality because it heals. The definition of health is the state of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So it's bringing it all together. I do more of the spiritual, Candy does more of the mental. Together we deal with the physical, and we help you. We find the solution best for your needs. And Candy's got more courage or strength with a lot of the heavier addicted people than I think I could ever deal with. I give you a lot of credit, Candy Finnegan, because some of the stories I know are like on TV, what we had witnessed, or certain cases that I've listened to you discuss. It takes a lot of dedication and passion to be of service like that. And the great thing is that when the people wake up or they come back and say, oh, thank you, Candy, my God, you changed my life.
Well, I allowed them to change their life.
But you help, and that's the beauty of it. We've got just a few minutes left. One more time, you can reach Candy Finnegan at Candy Finnegan, it's FINNIGAN @AOL.com, or me at Dr. Linda at LindaSalvin.com. And we're here to help, or help you help somebody else. If you love somebody and you know or see that they might be hurting or they might need some assistance, give us a shout out. We're there to help you. We'll be back next Wednesday. Tomorrow, on the Starlight Cafe, there's a wonderful interview that I did with a client of mine about his experiences with my readings and candles. And then next Tuesday, we'll be back with more on Transformational Tuesday with Sharon Winters. And then it'll be Candy and me back on Wednesday. In closing, the stages of recovery include, the recognition, the early, the middle, the late stage. But our message that Candy's trying to say, it's how to keep it going for the rest of your life, day by day.
We do this thing a day at a time.
It is sometimes moment by moment. That's the end of the show. Rebel, thanks for doing so great with the engineering. We're going to say goodbye for now. Candy, stay backstage. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Again, everywhere, we're here for you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Recovery Wednesday. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com, and Candy Finnegan at candyfinnegan@AOL.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.